Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome back to another chapter where we're going to talk about what types of entry points. So on this chapter, like I said, we're going to be mainly focusing on the types of entry points that you guys are going to be um, looking forward to taking within the market. So don't confuse the two. We have the chapter that has confirmation entry points, and this one is what we call what types of entry points. You understand that? Okay. Before you have confirmation, you need to know the type of entry point that you need to take firstly. You understand? So on the type of entry points, we only have three different types of entry points. Sorry about that. So we have what we call the Fibonacci entry point, the 50% Fibonacci entry point, which is this one here. And then we have the weak entry point, which is this one here. And then we have the body entry point, which is this one here. I'm just going to take you guys through all these entry points, how you go about them. And then, yeah, that'll be it. So now let's start with what the weak entry point. So on the weak entry point, so what's happening here is that okay, we're currently on a bearish trend. As you can see, that okay, the market creates an impulse to the downside. It creates a correction. That correction does what? It breaks our lower low. So as it breaks our lower low, this means that okay, we're currently on what? A breakout of structure. So the market creates a breakout of structure. It grabs its liquidity and pushes to the upside. So which means that okay, it needs to go to our point of interest. So what happens here is that okay, look, the market will do what? The market will not go inside our order block. It will just tap into our order block and then into the wick of this candlestick and then push to the downside afterwards. So this one, we call it what? The weak entry point. Then the market taps into your wick, into the wick of the entry point, into the wick of the order block, and then goes down. So what are the good things and the bad things about these things that okay? Most of the time the market goes for the weak. No matter what. Sometimes it can tap and go inside, and sometimes it can just tap and go to the downside same time. It's good because of your trade will always be activated. And then the bad thing is that okay, the risk, because of since when you take an entry point from this level here, this is how much you're going to be risking. So which means there are a lot of pips that you're going to be risking on this entry point because of technically your stop loss will be at the wick of the other candlestick or the body, depending on the shape of the candlestick, how the candlestick was formed. So entry point within this level here, and then this is how much you're going to be risking. So this box here indicates how much you're going to be risking. And then your stop loss will be above, what do you call this thing? The wick of the entry of the candlestick. So which means on top of where the wick ends, that's where the thing is going to be. Your stop loss is going to be. So it's a quality entry point because of most of the time the market respects it. Understand? So now let's go on and talk about what the 50% entry point. Actually, the 50% entry point, 50% entry point. That's right. So on the 50% entry point, the same situation, a breakout of structure within this level, a grab of liquidity, the market pushes to the upside. So as it pushes to the upside here, you enter at the start of the body of the candlestick. So since when we have this bullish candlestick because of what? This bullish impulse here before the market came down to break this lower low here. This means that okay, on the start of the candlestick, so which means that okay, if you have a candlestick that is formed like this, if this is your candlestick here, let's say you have a candlestick like this, and then let's say it has a wick. So which means that okay, at the beginning of the body, this is where you are willing to do what? To take your entry points at. Yes, then you're gonna take your entry points here instead of taking the entry points where at the wick of the candlestick, which means you're not going to take the entry point at the wick of the candlestick. You're going to take the entry point where at the start of the body of the what? Of the entry point. So you take your entry point within that level. It has less risk than what the weak entry point because of it's gonna be some few little bit pips that that's gonna separate between this guy and this guy. You understand? Because of this guy you enter at this level, but then this guy you enter there. So there will be a little bit of a difference, but then still it has a huge risk. You understand? You're gonna be risking a lot entry point within that level, and then this is how much you're gonna be risking within the market. And then here you have what? You have your stop loss. Your stop loss will always be where at the top of the wick of the candlestick. You understand? You take your trades from that level and then it pushes to the downside afterwards. So now let's go to the last type of entry point. Here we have what? The 50% Fibonacci entry point. You understand? On the 50% Fibonacci entry point, so I chose to make an uptrend model. So as you can see that okay, the market breaks a high, it grabs its liquidity, pushes to the downside, creates liquidity also here, takes out both liquidities, and then it goes to your entry point afterwards. So once it taps into your entry point, you're gonna have your order block, which is mainly surrounded by what? Which is mainly surrounded by the 50%, what you call it, which is mainly surrounded by your order block, that is, your point of interest, which is simply the last candlestick the market left. So you're gonna have that entry point, and then now how you take your trade is that, okay, you're gonna have, let's say you have an order block like this, and then it has both weeks. Let's say it has week here, and then also has a week here. So what you need to do is that, okay, you go to your Fibonacci. So that's how my Fibonacci is. So I'm just gonna double click on my Fibonacci. So this is how you're gonna decorate your Fibonacci. You remove the background, you remove all the levels. You're gonna be left with 0, 1, and 5. Make them black, and then I think everything is gonna be fine afterwards. Instead, so now you take the Fibonacci. So you're gonna measure the whole candlestick. It doesn't matter whether you put one at the top or one at the bottom. The only thing that you're interested in is what? It's the 50% of the candlestick. So which means this is where you're gonna be doing what? You're gonna be taking your entry point at the 50% level. So the same thing here. So as you take an entry point within that level, this means this is where your stop loss will be. If you take a buy, this is where your stop loss will be, and then your targets will be where they are. So which means within this candlestick, what you're gonna do is that, okay, you're gonna measure this candlestick the way it is. Even if it has a week or it doesn't have a week, you measure it the way it is, and then this is where your, I made a mistake here. This line here, it indicates the entry point. So this is where the entry point is gonna be, and then this is how much you're gonna be risking. So this one here, it has less risk. It has less risk because of you enter at the middle of the candlestick. So which means half of that candlestick, you can find yourself risking plus minus 5 to 6 pips. 5 to 6 pips, 10 pips. It should always be less. It should always be what? It should always be less. So now the market does what? The market, it taps into your order block. So which means now you're gonna take your trades from this level here, then you're gonna swing it to the upside, and then this is how much you're gonna be risking on your trade. So let's say that, okay, this is how much you're gonna be risking on your trade. Let me just make that example. That's how much you're gonna be risking on your trade. Then that's how much you're gonna be risking on the trade. So yeah, guys, that's about it. That's about it on this guys here. So you need to know all these entry points, apply them, because of I don't know which one the market needs to respect most of the time, but then try to see, because of now, once I introduce the chapter of confirmation entry point, you're gonna take this entry point, all of them, and then try to look for which one the market respected, and then you try to implement a confirmation entry point within that entry point, and then you're gonna start executing your trades afterwards. The next session is going to be about the theory part of whatever I have done here. The practical side of whatever I've developed here.